freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your round 3 recap for this week's Wells Fargo Championship. Joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Hey, Greg.
Rick, great to be here tonight. Talk about this awesome tournament we have going on right now. Big time golf course, big time field, and hey, we got a big time leaderboard as well.
We've got a big time leaderboard. We've got, we'll talk about it at the end, but a toss up, basically two guys, even money at the top to win this. And they're both big names, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that in just a second, Greg, because I want to start with Quail Hollow. You know, this is a golf course that played 2 strokes more difficult on Saturday than it has throughout the week. We've been seeing those big bounces all week, but it was noticeably more firm. It was noticeably faster, and those range of scores were wider than we've seen all week.
Yeah, when you get really firm greens like this, hole location can have a huge effect. Sometimes hole locations in the back of the green, which it seemed to me like there were quite a few of on Thursday anyway, they can almost become more accessible in a way. Whereas when they're in the front of the green, they become really difficult to access. And the front of the green can also include ridges and things like that, you know, just over obstacles. So the golf course is really difficult because of that firmness. You also add in the length of this golf course, which is it's extremely long. Then there's a lot of dog legs. And if you can't quite carry the corners of the dog legs, you get long shots in where you have big greens, but they play a whole lot smaller because they're so firm. And they were quite a bit faster today as well.
Not to pick on these guys, but just to show you, Sahith shot an 82. That is 17 shots worse than he shot on Friday. There were 2 other 80s. Those are Peter Malnati and Eric Cole. Greg, to have a range of scores with those plus the 2 67s the round of the day and only a 69 person field is pretty noteworthy.
Yes, absolutely. Like you said, you're not picking on these guys. I mean, look at how few scores. There are only 5 scores better than 1 under. And you're talking about another 5 at 1 under. Exactly. So 5 players broke 70 today. That is a surefire sign of an extremely difficult golf course. You got Denny McCarthy, who can fill it up on the greens, Sung Jae Im, who played beautifully, and Mackenzie Hughes, who's a member here as well. They all broke 70 with 69. So yeah, it was an extremely difficult challenge. It was fun to watch.
2 67s were the round of the day. We'll save one for a little bit later, but we'll get to Sepp Straka's 67 here, Greg. He pulled double duty. Not only did he shoot the round of the day, but then he got in the booth and called some golf afterwards. And this was mostly done on the back nine. And he actually mentioned this in that kind of, I don't want to say an interview because he was calling the action. He made the turn in 35. That's even par. And then he got on a run where he birdied 10, 13, 14, and 15. He gave one back during that stretch, but capped it off with a birdie on 18, which I cannot imagine there were many of those on Saturday. And all of a sudden, Sepp Straka starts flying up the leaderboard.
Yeah, this is my view of this golf course is pretty simple. There's basically 13 holes where you're hanging on for dear life, and there's 5 holes where you got to score. And Sepp Straka took advantage of all 5. Those are 7 and 8. You have 7 reachable par 5 for everybody in the field. 8 is a hole where you can drive it up near the green. You give yourself some chip shots to get up and down for birdie. Then on the back 9, you have 10, a par 5, 14 and 15. 15, the other par 5, the third and final par 5, and 14 is drivable. So those are the 5 holes where you get a little reprieve from the distance and the difficulty, and you feel like you can really make some birdies. And Sepp Straka got all 5 of them today. And again, this is important. Well, just because they're short doesn't mean they're easy birdies by any stretch, because there's so much difficulty on the firm and fast greens. But that's where you really need to take advantage. Sepp did that. He also made 3 bogeys, but a couple of bonus birdies. I call them bonus birdies. 18, absolutely a bonus. He had a great shot in there after kind of flirting with the creek on the left-hand side. And 13 as well was another bonus birdie for him.
Pair of 67s, and then there were 3 69s. Let's talk about the most valuable one, because that was Sungjae Im, who is currently in solo third here, Greg. And this was a hard working day. Every time they showed Sungjae, something was happening. He was making birdie. He was punching out of trees. He was hitting the flag stick on his approach on a par 3. He was holing out from the bunker on 18. He was doing it all around Quail Hollow.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 holes specifically were pretty wild. Right, you look at the shot tracker there, and he missed the green to the right, but he did hit a laser in there, knocked it off the flag stick in the air, and ends up getting it up and down from right of the green. And then 18 has to chip out after a wayward tee shot, misses the green from 137 with his third shot, and of course holes it from the bunker to save par. But all in all, he had to scramble a lot today. He wasn't necessarily sharp with his irons. Some of them were a little offline. Sometimes he was caught with the difficulty of distance control out here. He only ended up hitting 8 greens in regulation in this round of golf. And for a guy known for his ball striking to go out there and shoot 69, only hitting 8 greens, it's a pretty darn good day.
Yeah, it was not a Sungjae-like day. Lost strokes off the tee, lost strokes on approach, and then filled it up on and around the putting surfaces. So listen, a lot of different ways to complete the puzzle. Sungjae completed it in his own way on Saturday. He's at 8 under. He is the closest non-big boy, like it's big boys only at the top. And he is 3 shots behind second. He is 4 shots behind the leader. We'll get to those guys in a second, Greg, but does Sungjae have a chance? Is this literally a 2-man race?
I believe so.
Okay.
A lot of that has to do with who is up there and
Yeah.
how they're playing right now. Normally, just looking at the gap, I would say yes, Sungjae absolutely is in the race. 3 shots off of second, 4 shots off of first, as you mentioned. Yeah, that puts you in contention. But I think the guys up top have an ability to create a different golf course than everybody else, and it just makes it a little easier to avoid bogeys. Some of those really long 490 plus yard par 4s become 9 irons and wedges for them, and I think that kind of takes Sungjae Im and puts him in a tough spot.
We're going to talk about the 2-man race at the top of the board, the 2 that have separated themselves, the 2 that are even money to win the Wells Fargo Championship. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
From the world of Sonic the Hedgehog, is there anyone stronger?
No.
Tougher?
No.
Hungrier?
Grapes was an interesting choice for someone who doesn't use fingers.
Knuckles, now streaming only on Paramount Plus.
And we're back. Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele have separated themselves from the rest of the field. Rory is in at 11 under. Xander is in at 12 under. So that's 3 shots clear from Rory to Sungjae Im. Let's start with Rory McIlroy here, Greg. And this was his 2nd consecutive bogey-free round. He shot a bogey-free 68 on Friday. He follows it up with a bogey-free 67 on Saturday. And there was at least one good break, but other than that, Rory was pretty much in control of his golf ball.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I've been watching Rory very closely this week. He's my one and done play. He's on my betting. Yeah, he's on my betting card to as a winner this week. So I'm invested in Rory, but also watching him so closely because he's featured on the coverage and he's driving it like Rory McIlroy of 2014. Last time we were at Valhalla. He's driving it like Rory in 2012 at Kiawah Island, the Ocean Course. He is dominating this golf course with the driver right now, which is so fun to watch. I mean, he steps up on the 16th tee every day, and it's like, it's a fun thing for him. Like, I know I can do something nobody else can do, and I'm just going to do it. And it completely changes the hole. Completely changes the hole. He flies it over that bunker every day and turns a 538 yard par 4 into mincemeat. And this is just total separation from him. with him. And the golf course sets up so well because he can air out the driver. There's a lot of dog legs, a lot of fairway bunkers he can carry, other guys can't. And it just creates this separation. And then the other thing, Rick, is there's not a whole lot of wedges. So wedge play has been a weakness for him. And he's not hitting a lot of sand wedges, right? It's a lot more 9 irons, 8 irons, 175-yard shots for him, which he has been a lot more comfortable with this year and looked very comfortable with this week so far.
Let me read you a couple stats here. This is just from today alone, just Saturday's round alone. Second in driving distance, 337 yards. T8 in driving accuracy, he missed 3 fairways. That means he hit 11 of them. T4 in greens and regulation, so he hit 12 out of 18 of those. On a strokes gained perspective, he gained 2.99 strokes off the tee. That's his 4th best driving round ever. And I think what is even more telling is what you were talking about at the start there, because his 2 best driving rounds ever are both at Quail Hollow. So now 1, 2, and 4 in his career are at Quail Hollow, because there is a way that he, and basically he alone, can separate himself with that club at this golf course.
And it's very special to watch. I mean, I can't think of a hole where he doesn't give himself just a significant advantage. It's so impressive. And so all of a sudden, those 5 birdie holes that I talk about, well, they get expanded significantly to almost every hole on the golf course for Rory McIlroy, and almost Rory McIlroy alone. 16, there's not a lot of guys hitting 9 irons into 16.
16 is such a great example, and I want to jump in there because you said Rory turns it into mincemeat. He does. Xander Schauffele hit a 320-yard, beautiful left to right drive that landed in the fairway and catches that fairway bunker, which plays bigger than it actually is because it kind of collects golf balls. And now he's hitting a 213-yard approach out of a fairway bunker, while Rory's hitting like 150-yard nothing burger into that hole and giving himself a legitimate look at birdie.
Right. It's an easy hole for Rory McIlroy at that point, and it's an extremely challenging hole for Xander and the rest of the field. I mean, Xander was in that fairway bunker shy of the tongue. It's not like it almost got over the bunker. No, it landed short of the bunker and bounces into it.
Right.
It's very well placed for just about everybody. But Rory can hit it into the stratosphere and somehow carry it. And it creates like a 40-yard, 30-yard difference. It's just incredible. I mean, I saw so many players this week in the first 2 rounds where their tee shots, when it was a little softer, didn't even reach the bunker. They're hitting it 300 yards and it's not reaching the bunker, and Rory's flying it. So that's that separation that you see. I think your statistic of his best driving rounds really tells that story nicely.
I'll give you one more. That drive that he hit today on 16, carrying the bunker, that one swing was worth a half a stroke. That is a half stroke that he gained off the tee to the field on 16. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, a half a stroke. That is an enormous number on one swing of the golf club.
But with the driver.
That's not right. That's not a 50-foot putt.
It's an absolute insanity. I didn't hear exactly what club he hit in there, but he had 172. That's probably a 9-iron.
I was thinking 9-iron as well.
Right, a little downhill. You got a back flag. You don't want to go long of it. I think that's 9. His 8-iron stock flat is like 175. So that's definitely a 9-iron. And Xander from 213 in a fairway bunker is probably looking at 5, maybe a 6-iron.
Right.
And that's Xander Schauffele.
Who's like much longer than he used to be and is one of the best drivers of the golf ball on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah, he's putting up 180-mile-an-hour ball speeds regularly. And you could be 3 clubs clear of him.
It's sick. It is really sick. And I love that that holds the perfect example of it. So I love that we're talking about it. Well, here's Xander. Now he opened the day with a 4-shot lead. And we knew he was not going to win this golf tournament by 8, right? There was going to be leaderboard gravity. There was going to be a little regression. He started out with 6 straight pars. He birdied 7, and then he parred his next 4 holes. So Greg, this felt weird, right? So he was 1 under through 11 on a day where the scoring average was 2 strokes over par. I mean, he's gaining 3 shots to the field, but I don't know if it felt that way in the moment.
No, because Rory McIlroy's making a move and closing the gap.
Yeah.
Right. But Rory's on a different golf course, or so it would seem. So you feel, because you're playing in the same group with that guy, you feel like, okay, pars are good if you look at the total field. Par's a good score out here. But when you're playing with Rory McIlroy and he's got another pitching wedge, 9-iron into a green, and you've got a 6-iron, all of a sudden it doesn't feel like par's a good score. So that's a very interesting balance that he had to deal with. And I think it led to Xander playing what looked like Xander was playing really hard today.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of hard work.
Yes,
he was. So he makes a bogey on 12. He gets it back on 14. The rest are par. So only 2 birdies, 1 bogey, and then 15 pars on the card. But man, it felt like it was a lot of, okay, can he get up and down from this spot? Can he make this 5 or 6 footer or 7 footer for par? And most of the time, the answer to that was yes, right? I mean, he was grinding hard, and he answered that question in the affirmative a lot. But man, I bet you he was exhausted walking off that 18th green.
Well, I mean, there must have been four times where there was an opportunity for a 2-shot swing because Rory's putting for birdie and Xander's not on the green. And Xander leaves himself with a putt that is missable.
Right.
And he made a lot of those. Some of them were really clutch. The putt at 14 for birdie. The putt at, I think that was for birdie. Yeah, 14 for birdie, 15 for par. Those were big putts. 17, no, not 17, 16 made a really nice one for par to save an opportunity for Rory. So those are some really good things, good aspects of the round. The bad aspect of the round was, I think, in large part due to the difficulty of the golf course. He was missing some distances.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do think that's accentuated on a golf course like this. You're trying to land it so close to the front edge of the green, and you have some severe slopes, and it ends up 20 yards short of the flag, but you missed your spot by 2 yards.
Right.
So I think his performance was a whole lot better than it felt like, to your initial point.
I agree. And I think if his team tonight, if I was on his team tonight, I'd say, listen, man, that was exactly that. You hit some, B+ shots that got D+ results.
Yeah.
And you gained 3 shots to the field and you're leading. It's all good.
Right.
That's what I would tell him.
Yeah.
Now, what I would tell you, Greg, is that Rory McIlroy is going to go out and make mincemeat of him tomorrow.
Well, see, this is something that Scotty Schauffele has brought to my mind, an analogy that Scotty Schauffele has brought to my mind where, you're in a swimming race. Okay. And one person is going crazy, making all kinds of splashes. They're swimming really hard and they're going really fast. But there's somebody else with a really smooth stroke who's cruising along. It looks easy, and they're right there neck and neck. And the longer the race goes on, the guy that's flailing around making all the splash is going to run out of energy, and the other guy is not. That's what Scotty Schauffele has done this entire season on the PGA Tour. He's treading water, and everybody else is really fighting to stay afloat, and they can't last 72 holes. It feels like that with Rory right now, the way he's just dominating this golf course. And quite frankly, leaving a lot of shots out there.
Agreed. Now, odds makers have essentially called this a coin flip. So Xander Schauffele is minus 110. Rory McIlroy is plus 105. So they are both, for, most people's purposes, unless you're doing this professionally and grinding every penny, even money for this golf tournament. Everybody else is 16-1 or longer. So just to lay it out there, Sung Jae is 16-1. Sepp Straka is 40-1, and everybody else is 150-1 or longer. It is just like, and there's only like 7 guys you can even get numbers on if you want them. Everybody else is not even on the board. Yeah. So two horse race here, Greg. I think after Thursday's round, after Friday's round, after Saturday's round, I feel Rory is a bit inevitable, and I think based on everything that we've talked about, only he gets that separation at this golf course off the tee. I think he wins this and adds a fourth.
Yeah. I mean, you think about what he did at 7 and 8, kind of making sloppy pars, if you will, places where he very easily could have made birdie, and it upsets him a little bit. So he goes up to 9, where a lot of guys made double today, right? It played pretty tough. And all of a sudden, Rory knocks it in there to 10 feet and makes a birdie. And it just feels like he has that ability to turn all the holes, even the ones that aren't birdie holes, into birdie holes very quickly. And that's going to be a lot to handle for Xander Schauffele, who's not only battling Rory McIlroy tomorrow, but also he's got a little bit of a monkey on his back right now. I'm not sure it's fair. He's kind of earned the monkey on his back, if you will, which I think is very impressive. But that's an extra element of pressure that I don't believe Rory McIlroy has to face.
Let me lay out another scenario for you here, because these two golfers, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy, are heavily featured in our one and done for this week. So you and I have Rory. Patrick has Xander. Mark has Max Homa, who is in T12, I believe, at the moment. T13, excuse me. Josh has Wyndham Clark, who's like T48. And Kyle has Tony Finau, who is also T48. So if you'll humor me, if Rory were to win this golf tournament, 3.6 million, that would get you well out in front, 10,700,000. It would then create a log jam in second, because I would move up to like 7 million. Josh and Mark would be at 7.6 and 7.1. If Xander finishes second and gets like 2 million, Patrick would go to set. So we would have like the 4 of us within 500,000 of each other in second, and you would be in the lead. I'll take that. I'll take that right now.
That's the result I'm looking for. Yeah, I'd love to see that one. It would just sting to play Rory this week, who's clearly playing so well, and not get the full benefit. I would feel like if Rory wins tomorrow, I got all I can out of Rory. I got all I can out of Scotty Scheffler on the year. That's why I would be in the lead, hypothetically. And if you hit on those guys, it's a huge win. If you don't, like at about 2 million per second?
Something like that, yeah.
So about 2 million per second, I would feel like I should have gone with my original plan, which is save him for Eastlake. No matter what he does at Eastlake, I would feel like I should have done that. So yeah, there's a lot riding on that in the one and done. A lot.
Rory, come on, buddy.
Yeah, it really turns the tide for you, especially.
Oh my God. Yeah, it would take my miserable year and get me right back into it with a major next week, and like 2 more signature events. I would be from rising from the ashes if I could get this one.
Yeah, it'd be dangerous.
Yeah,
it'd be like Sepp Straka rising up the leaderboard.
All right, Greg. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, but it's what's cool. One more thing on the one and done.
Yeah,
it's cool that it's a Rory McIlroy at Quail Hollow that can change your season, because that should be so chalky,
Right.
right? And it's at least within, our internal group, it's not that chalky, and you could shoot right back up there. So that's fun.
Yeah, that should have been one of the ones that you bookmarked on the beginning of the year.
Yeah, right. And it's the one that turns your year around.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll be back Sunday night to break it all down, see who wins this golf tournament. Should be an absolute blast for 18 holes on Sunday. Big thanks, producer Harry, filling in tonight, doing all the hard work. Thank you very much. Greg DuCharme at The Real GFD. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.